Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all, and we're so glad that you're here, whether you've been with us for years or whether this is your first time. Welcome, and we are so glad you're here. Also, those that are tuning in online, thanks for being with us. And we've got about an hour and 15 minutes packed of some good stuff this morning. But before we get into that, this is Veterans Day weekend, and if you're a veteran, would you please stand? We would like to recognize you this morning. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for protecting and serving our country. It's an amazing thing. Hey, I want to let you guys know about Adoption Weekend, Orphan Weekend coming up next Sunday. Be sure to come and just check out what all we are doing, because around here we are about orphans and we're about adoption. Why is that? Because God is about orphans and God is about adoption, and He's adopted us. And James 1:27 says, pure and undefiled religion in the sight of the Lord our God is to look after or to visit orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. So Pathway is going to be about adoption. It's going to be about orphans, and we're excited about that. We've got some different things planned, so check your bulletin so you can see if you have any questions. Maybe not all of us are going to adopt or foster, but there are ways that all of us can get involved in this endeavor that is so close to God's heart. So we'll see you next week, and God bless you. And why don't we stand and get ready to worship?
Where death just tend to come back to a lot is Exodus 14:14. It says, the Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. Isn't it great that we serve a God that no matter our season, no matter our circumstances that we're walking through, that he is fighting for us? Do you believe that this morning? Do you guys believe that? Amen. I'm so happy to have a God, to serve a God like that, that it doesn't matter. It doesn't say in that scripture that no matter our faith, no matter our season, no matter our circumstance, he's fighting for you. And this morning, I think that's so important for us to understand and to reflect on. So as we sing this song, I pray that would soak and marinate in your hearts as we sing this song about God's love and how he's always fighting for us. Sing my foes. My foes are many, they rise against me, but I will hold my ground. I will not fear the war, I will not fear the storm. My help is on the way, my help is on the way. Sing it out. And oh my God, he will not delay, my refuge in strength always. I will not fear, his promise is true, my God will come through always, always. Sing trouble. Trouble surrounds me, chaos abounding. My soul will rest in you. I will not fear the war, I will not fear the storm. My help is on the way. We believe it. My help is on the way. Oh my God, he will not delay, my refuge in strength always. I will not fear, his promise is true, my God will come through always, always. My God will come through. Sing, I lift my eyes up, my help comes from the Lord. Yes, Father, we believe. I lift my eyes up, my help comes from the Lord. From you alone, I lift my eyes up, my help comes from the Lord. No matter the season, I lift my eyes up, my help comes from the Lord. We believe, Father, we believe, we believe. And oh my God, he will not delay, my refuge in strength always. I will not fear, I will not fear, his promise is true, my God will come through always. I lift my eyes up, my help comes from the Lord. I lift my eyes up, my help comes from the Lord. Heavenly Father, we believe that, Lord. We believe that you are faithful. We believe that no matter our circumstance, Lord, no matter our season that we walk through, that you are faithful, that you are fighting for us, Lord. You've demonstrated that, Lord, through your love, Lord, the way that you pursue us, Lord, by sending your Son to die for us, Lord. I pray, Lord, that we would let that sink in, Lord, that truth, that you're willing to do anything to find the one, Lord, to find the one. We're grateful for that love, Lord. I cast my mind to Calvary, where Jesus bled and died for me. I see his wounds, his hands, his feet, my Savior on that cursed tree. His body bound and drenched in tears, they laid him down in Joseph's tomb, the entrance sealed by heavy stone. Messiah still and all alone. Lift our voices and sing, oh, praise the name. And oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh. We have a hope. On the third, at break of dawn, the Son of heaven rose again. Amen. Oh, trample death, where is your sting? The angels roar for Christ thy King. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Shall return in robes of white. The blazing sun shall pierce the night, and I will rise among the saints, my gaze transfixed on Jesus' face. And oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Sing, oh, praise the name. And oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name for endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Oh, praise his name. And oh, praise the
Hey, why don't you turn and just welcome whoever is around you. Did you do that this morning? Hey, we just want to welcome you this morning to Pathway. If you're new here today, we just really want to extend to you just a great welcome for being here. I'm Ron Williams, one of the pastors here on staff, and we're just so grateful you're here with us this morning. When you came in today, as you were listening to the announcement at the beginning, you're sitting in what we call a section community, and on your seat is a card that looks like this. Each is different colored and has faces on there that are actually individuals that lead that section, and they're here to answer any questions you may have about PCC. And matter of fact, if you are new today, we'd encourage you to fill this out. And just stop by Guest Central on the way out. In the foyer area, there's a little area that's there called Guest Central. You can stop and give them their card, and we'll make sure that we just get you some good information on what's going on here at Pathway. If you came in the back side of the church, we never know what to call this. Do we call it the front side or the back side or the front side or the back side? I have no idea. If you came in this side, out this direction, you notice we got that construction going on. And a few weeks ago, we talked about needing to be at that $3 million mark. Halfway to begin the process of doing that, we had about $700,000 in reserves that we moved over to get us close to about 2.7. And I know there's a little bit of tension with some folks, and want to let you know that some of that reserve came through within the context of what we did with Beyond. And there was a little bit of wrestle with some folks about the fact that did we kind of push some money in there to get this deal going? Well, I just want to tell you that as of this week, there's now $3.5 million in that as far as construction goes, so you can lord a hand on that. And we just encourage you to think about your year and let's keep on going. We want to stay ahead of draws. What that means is we want to stay ahead as we continue to pay for this. We want to stay ahead of having to draw from that line of credit we have with the banks. And it would be awesome, wouldn't it, by June of next year to just have this deal done. I mean, I really mean that. It would be... You always get a little bit of tension on that one, don't you? But anyway, I just want to tell you, that's all because you're giving. This past week, I sat in my office with a young widow and was able to say to her, hey, listen, we're going to come around you on some things, and it's all because you're giving. Last weekend, we took 135 junior hires away on a retreat, and we were able to subsidize that retreat because you're giving. Their lives were marked, and families were touched as a result of that, and your faithfulness to your giving. And we give around here because Scripture tells us that the Lord instructs us to give of the first fruits of what He's given to us. We look at our positions and we look at the resources as being given by God. And so that's why we take an offering. That's why we have this time where these buckets get passed. We give you an opportunity to give back a portion of what the Lord has given to you. And some of you give that way. I give online. And so I never put anything in the bucket, but I give online. Every time I get that check, it goes right there. And I know many of you do that as well. I just want to commend you for that too. So let's pray together, and then as the buckets are being passed, make sure they make it their way all the way to the very end. So, Lord, thanks for today. Thanks for your goodness. Thanks for your grace. Thanks for all that you're doing in the life of this church. And we just believe that as we're moving ahead to reach even more with the knowledge of who Jesus Christ is, the truth of the gospel. And that, Lord, you would use, that we would be good stewards of what is going to be given to do just that. To continue to increase our ministries, to continue to increase our square footage, to continue to impact the community around Carroll and beyond, and to impact those that we're serving in various countries as our missionaries. And so, Lord, we just pray your blessings upon what is given. We love you. It's in the name of Jesus I pray. Amen. Amen. Well, this Sunday, right after second service, there is a local mission fair. We do a lot of things locally. One of those things happens to be what we do called Senior Packs. Senior Packs is about 150 individuals in our city are impacted on a monthly basis through what we call Senior Pack. There are many here at Pathway that are part of Senior Pack. We've owned this deal. And they take groceries to these individuals and minister to them. And as a result of that, what's happened is that the same people are serving the same people who receive those groceries through Senior Pack. And it's one way in which we impact our local community. And here's a little bit of video about what Senior Pack is all about.
when you feed His people, when you help people, you're doing the will of God. When you see somebody naked and you give them clothes, you're doing the will of God.
My name is Mike Miller, and I have been delivering groceries for about 2 years. And in that 2-year period, I've forged some really neat friendships.
This is my dad, and this really means a lot to me to come on these Saturday mornings. I know me and my brothers all enjoy it, just seeing all these beautiful ladies.
Pretty much it's been more of a blessing for me than I think it has been at all for the people we're serving, just because of the joy that it brings just visiting with some of these people.
And I be looking forward of every first Saturday, because I know Mike them coming to see me and sit and talk, and I enjoy them. And really, they the only one comes to see me.
I'm Kim Renneker, and this is my husband, Rick. And we have been in charge of Senior Pack for the last 3 years. When this first started out, we were approached to deliver groceries, and we thought, hey, we can do that. You take a bag of groceries, you drop them off, and you leave. Well, it became so much more than that to us. We have sat down and we've gotten to know these seniors, and we've spent a lot of time with them.
It's just so neat for me to go and meet these incredible people, but to watch Kim in action. I mean, like she said, it's not about the groceries. It's about just investing your time and your love into these seniors.
They have become friends to us. They've become family to us.
Well, yeah, it means the world to me, because Rick has been closer to me than my brothers, you know, and Kim has been as great as my sisters, you know, and it's a beautiful thing. He even come by, you know, go out his way, come by, takes me to lunch, man, you know what I'm saying, on my birthday, you know, and he's just been my brother and my friend, man. I just can't even express, you know, how beautiful that is, you know what I'm saying?
It's become more than just delivering groceries. We go to doctors with them. We had a lady pass away, and I went to the funeral with them. It has taken us into areas of town that we just never would have went to.
The food that is brought in to me is very welcome, because I can't get out and get grocery shopping. I was very taken back, thrilled to have the young ladies from the church. They came to see me even when I was in the hospital. And I said to myself, Susie, you have blessings and people who care. And you care for me. I also care for you very deeply too.
We have families who take young children. We take our children who are high school and college. And when our daughter comes home from college, the first thing she said to us is, when is Senior Pack? It's something that you go in and, you know, we went in, I guess, thinking we were going to bless others, and it blesses us.
Yeah, so we can affirm that this morning. It's an awesome ministry. Good. Well, if you are a guest with us this morning and you're walking into the service thinking to yourself, man, I'm going to get a full text message in 3 points. That's not going to happen today. But we're in a series simply called Bridges, and we are trying to find ways to understand the importance as a congregation to embrace diversity as a church. And I need to say this to you. And that is that as a congregation, you know, we have folks from India represented here. We have folks from China represented here, Korea represented here. We have Burmese, a number of Burmese that are here within our church. We see a wide range of individuals that are here, white and black, and yet we know that as we grow as a church, we're going to become more diverse in various ways. And diversity goes much deeper than the color of someone's skin. And so what we want to do is have some conversations along the way to give you a broader understanding. When I think about this as a leader, and I think about this for our church, I'm reminded of that wonderful little verse in John chapter 3, verse 16, where Jesus says, "For God so loved the world that," no, not he gave. For God so loved the world, yeah, you're right, that he gave. Oh, man. You want to take over?
Nope.
Yeah. I flunked seminary.
Me too.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever. And when I just realized I got it wrong in the other two services.
I didn't
completely
say anything,
wrong.
man.
And you didn't
It's
say
all right.
anything to me.
Yeah.
You didn't try to save me on that, man.
I don't correct pastors.
What kind of a friend are you? And so, anyway, I'm a little rattled right now. When Jesus was giving that teaching, he was giving it to a man by the name of Nicodemus, who was a Pharisee who came out at night, and he came out to see Jesus in a private conversation. And as a religious rule keeper, he was very judgmental of so many others because in his mind, God only loved people like me. And Jesus said, it's not true. It's whoever. And that word whoever means whoever. It doesn't matter what the social economic stature is. It doesn't matter what the educational level is. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter the family you've come from. It doesn't matter the color. Jesus said, it's for whoever. And we are always going to be a whoever kind of Jesus-centered church. Are you with me on that this morning? That's what we're about. So a few months ago, I had an opportunity. John Such from Wallen had called me, and he said, hey, we've got this group of pastors that are getting together. We're dealing with this issue of diversity and race, and would you come to the meeting? And so I came to the meeting, and I came to the meeting not to say anything. I came just to seek to understand, because sometimes you need to keep your mouth shut, and you need to keep your ears open to hear and to understand, to seek to understand, to know. And so I went, and when I went, I got introduced to this guy, Iric Headley. And let's welcome Iric this morning, shall we?
Thank you.
And Iric is born and raised in
Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, which,
Nice
as
and
I said,
warm.
I've been many times and
Yep.
love the island.
Me too.
And you don't talk like a Trinidadian,
Right.
and there's a story behind that.
Well, there is. When I came here, I was 10, just turned 11 actually. And in Trinidad, a lot of the TV programming is American programming. So I grew up on programs like The A-Team. Everybody remember The A-Team? And my mom watched a lot of soap operas like Young and the Restless and all that kind of nonsense. So you learn how to talk like Americans. You really do. So when I came to America and everybody just consistently, what did you say? What did you say? I'm just like, I'm tired of that. Let's just talk like the Americans. So I got used to just kind of talking American.
And, Marshall's up here, his voice and your voice, both are voices that every preacher longs to have.
Yeah.
They got to listen to this every week, but man,
You're doing good, man.
It's a good thing. But you are now part of what's called Fort United, and you're going to explain that in just a few moments. And really, it's through the Mayor's Commission. Wasn't your line of work.
Not at all. I did not a lot of different stuff, but my last line of work was really in the music industry. So wrote a few songs that made it mainstream. Just 3, not a bunch.
Yeah.
So that was a good run.
And one of those you got a little Grammy for. Well, you're part of getting a Grammy for.
Yeah, a little Grammy. So I was a part of a team that got the Grammy. So I co-wrote a song with my sister, and that song was on an album that got a Grammy for the best album of the year.
And your sister actually she's got a few more awards than what you've received. So.
She's got a lot more awards than what I received. She's gotten a Tony Award, which is for theater, Broadway. She got a Grammy in her name. She a lot more money, stuff like that.
And you're working for the mayor. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Fort United, one of the things that were, when I came into that meeting, and the thing that I appreciated so much about the position of the clergy that you've brought into this, because this is unusual than a lot of the other cities who've worked on this United objective, is that you brought the clergy in, and coming into that meeting, walking in that meeting, being a part of a meeting where you had white clergy, black clergy, I think there was an Hispanic at the table as well. and I so appreciated what I sense in those meetings is a real sense together, and I've just so valued this, is that we're not dealing with red and blue and Republican and Democrat, because that's not the issue at all. Everybody there is realizing this is a very much of a Jesus-centered issue too.
It is.
That we've got to address and deal with, and I just want to commend you for that. But I know we're dealing primarily with the issue of what's happened right now with black men who are being murdered on our streets, and looking at ways to maybe redirect that, maybe make an impact in that. And one thing that I was really I had to get my head around was when you gave that illustration of what goes on in Milwaukee when a young man is murdered in Milwaukee. Can you just...
Yes, so the police chief and I traveled to Milwaukee, and we studied this thing called a homicide review. So what the homicide review is a young man is murdered, and they put his face on a screen in a room a lot smaller than this, and it has all the system leaders in the room. So education, family support services, non-for-profit, and all these people are in the room just asking, who knows this guy, who knew this guy, who had this guy when he was 5 years old, 4 years old. And they go all the way back to sometimes pre-K, and they attach the trajectory changing to pre-K, to third grade especially. So third grade is a big deal simply because children transition from learning how to read to reading to learn. So we have private prisons that are being built around the United States of America that are specifically looking at third grade reading scores to find out how many cells they need to build. Because typically, if you're struggling in third grade, your trajectory changes and you typically go in the wrong direction. And data shows that. It's not my opinion, that's just data. So the homicide review really encompassed a lot of those issues, a lot of those areas to really identify where the problem started.
Yeah, that was just, it just blew me away. I just thought, wow. And that there could be opportunities for deterrence that could be there.
Absolutely.
As we look ahead, and certainly as the church gets more and more engaged in this, the opportunity of really getting your body together and saying, let's make a difference, let's make an impact. I know that's what you're about. So
Absolutely.
I'm not going to steal any more of your thunder. I just want you to take a few moments, help us to have a broader understanding of what's going on at Fort United, but also to challenge our hearts as it relates to this issue of race.
Sounds good.
All right?
Thank you so much.
Yep.
So first and foremost, I have to thank Pastor Ron. I'm a PK, pastor's kid, and I remember, who laughed at that? Somebody laughed out there. And I remember my father having a very, 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 very tough job with when people wanted to come into the pulpit. I mean, it was a big deal. So I just have to say thank you to Pastor Ron for giving me the trust to come into your pulpit. So give him a round of applause, please, for that. I don't know how he trusted Marshall to come here last week, but you know, today, I'm just kidding, Marshall. So Fort Wayne United, first and foremost, we have to introduce some people that are close to my heart. So everybody over here, except for my wife, please stand up. Stand up over here, please. Stand up. Everybody stand up. You too, Marshall, stand up. So we have Edmund O'Neill. Raise your hand, Edmund. Edmund's a part of Fort Wayne United. Edmund's the president of Northeast Indiana Works, his beautiful wife, Alicia. Their son, Preston, who's my son's best friend. They do like speed dating. They met each other and would instantly, bang, you're my best friend. Let's spend the rest of our lives together, which is crazy. We have Marshall White, who was here last week. Thank you so much for your time last week, Marshall. We have Mike Armstrong. Raise your hand, Mike. Mike is a 20-something-year-old black man who's a part of Fort Wayne United. We have Dominique here in the presidential suit there. We have Orlando Smith. And we have our co-chair, Joe Jordan, who's also president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you. So the next person I have to introduce is my beautiful wife. Please stand up, Tamara. I've been married for 12 years. She'll tell me off later on. Her and my two little boys, Maxwell and Braxton. Thank you, guys. And I get to do this work because of a wife who really supports me. I can't do this stuff without support because it takes nights, it takes phone calls, it takes all kinds of, Joe and I typically are on the phone sometimes 11 o'clock at night, and my wife's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, it's Joe. She's like, all right, you know, because it's late at night. But just having that support system is a huge deal. So let's talk about Fort Wayne United for a little bit. And I've got a little bit of time, and I don't want to rush through this, but we're going to have to move pretty fast, so bear with me. So Fort Wayne United came from two national initiatives. So Cities United was launched because of the epidemic. So we have 90 cities and mayors that are a part of Cities United. 90 cities and 90 mayors that are a part of Cities United. And Cities United looked at the landscape of America and said, we have young black men that are dying in the streets every single day, large quantities of young black men, and we need to do something about it on a national level because America was not doing anything about it. So they asked us to look at violence-related deaths. Again, here's that reading component, right? You'll see this continuously popping up. Workforce readiness, that's why Edmund's at the table. How do we create opportunities for employment, and how do we connect them? Everybody's like, all right, there are jobs out here, but how do we connect people to those jobs? How do we do that? That's the question. And then again, parents and families, because we know what the real issue is. We really know what the real issue is, but we have to address all of it. And then My Brother's Keeper came from the White House, and they asked us to do a lot of the same stuff. There you see kindergarten prep, grade level reading, again, that third grade, high school graduation, college and careers, jobs and work experience. That's why Edmund's at the table again. So we can really, really ask ourselves, how do we connect people to employment? Education and training, and prevent youth violence. So when I came on board, we had these two initiatives, and I went to the mayor. We created a big fat team, and I said, hey man, we gotta make this our own. So we called it Fort Wayne United. So we can unite our community and change it from being a black issue to a community issue. If you think that this issue doesn't impact you, you're wrong. It impacts all of us. It impacts all of us, and especially if you believe in Christ, it automatically impacts us because these are children of God that are dying on the streets. And as soon as we consistently say, just let them pull themselves up by their bootstraps, we put a blind eye to it and we say, oh, that's their problem, not ours. Not really a Christian attitude to have, in my opinion, but just my opinion. So Fort Wayne United came aboard, Fort Wayne United was born. I became a director. We have two co-chairs by the name of Chris Cathcart, who's the vice chancellor of Ivy Tech, so we can bring education at the forefront. And then again, Joe Jordan from Boys and Girls Club. Boys and Girls Club here in Fort Wayne is a major partner, and Joe consistently gets awards because the Boys and Girls Club of Fort Wayne is one of the best in the country. He just got CEO of the Year award. He got an award last night from the Urban League. It's not 2017 anymore. It's Joe Jordan year. That's what we call it. So, yeah. So give him a round of applause for that. So Joe and Chris helped me to lead this initiative in the right direction. And so we needed all of these system leaders at the table, right? So we needed health, we needed law enforcement, nonprofit, criminal justice, education, employment, parks and recreation, citizen services, youth advocacy. We needed clergy at the table because I'm a Christ follower, and we're not trying to infuse Fort Wayne United into the church. We're trying to infuse Christ into Fort Wayne United. We want to make that clear. So that's why the clergy was at the table. So we have black and white pastors at the table. Pastor Ron is there, John Such is there, Cedric Walker's there. We have a nice group of guys that are at the table to help us do that. So here's our steering committee. These are people I meet with once a month, and these are people who nobody's telling them what to do. So I'm the crazy guy who gets in a room on a monthly basis and asks them to do some things, and it goes really, really well. So we have everybody from the president of United Way to president of Indiana Tech. Judge Davis is on this board. Anybody know Judge Davis? Yeah. Hopefully, who said that? Good reasons? No. He said no. Next time, be quiet. Don't answer that question. And again, we have these two young black men who get to sit in the room with all of these big wigs every single month. We cannot say we have an initiative for black men without starting at home first. And I have to start at home with my two black sons. I want them to be safe for the rest of their lives here in Fort Wayne. So here we go with the vision. Every black male in Fort Wayne is respected and valued and has the opportunity to achieve their full potential. Full potential. There's a difference between thriving and surviving. There's an extreme difference between thriving and surviving. We want people to thrive in our communities, reach their full potential, be at their best, right? And then our mission is to advocate for and implement policies, practices, and procedures, again, to ensure that they reach their full potential because of our efforts. And we're not here to create anything, we're here to really convene and get the right people at the table. And again, we have a big steering committee, but all these people are, high-level folks. So we had to break it down and say, let's focus on these areas. Let's make sure that we're focusing on health. Let's make sure we're focusing on education, employment, program implementation, justice. We had to focus in on these areas. And again, clergy, big deal for us to have the church at the table. It's a very big deal to me. So our mayor is a big part of this, right? I work for the mayor. Never thought when I was out on the streets doing the worst things on earth that those people, those guys that we want to help, I was once that person. So never thought I'll be transitioning my life to be a Christ follower, and secondarily working for the mayor of Fort Wayne and working with the police out of all things. Like, whoa, never thought that would happen. But here we are, and it shows that Christ can change people's lives. He changed mine. Why do we believe that he can't change anybody else's? We'll be liars to say that, right? So we have a mayor now that says, I'm a big part of this and I want this to move forward. We cannot get this work done without the top leadership. Anybody know about a thing called a collective impact model? Great. Collective impact model is to convene, collaborate, coordinate, and when you see gaps, you create. So we convene the right people, we collaborate with the right partners, we coordinate those services, point them in the right direction, and then where you identify gaps, you create programs and services to address the gaps. That's called a collective impact model, where everybody's going in the same direction. That's what we've done at Fort Wayne United. So why? Why black males? Why not Burmese? Why not a white guy in the front row? Everybody gets killed. We all focus on black crime. Do you know that white people kill white people too? Does anybody talk about white on white crime? Nope. It's just true. Black people kill black people, white people kill white people, Hispanics kill Hispanics. Data shows that people kill who they know, right? So why black men? Why black men? Well, it's very, very simple. We are underrepresented in success areas. So high school graduation, we're at the bottom. College, we're at the bottom. Lifetime earnings, we're at the bottom. But then we're overrepresented in the problem areas. Homicide, we're at the top. Incarceration, we're at the top. While being typically the lowest population in most cities. How does that math work? So that's why for phase one, we focused in on young black men, because that's where the epidemic is. And we want to transition this thinking from thinking that this is just a little minor issue to a major issue that affects us all right? So again, did you know that homicide is the #1 leading cause of death in young black males ages 10 to 24? 10 to 24. So stand up, Mike, Orlando, Dominic. These guys are all in their 20s. So if everybody in this room is like, man, they're 20-something years old, those are responsible black men, they need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, get a dang job, whatever. These are 20-something-year-old black men. Okay, have a seat. Stand up, Braxton. This is my son. Everybody say, hi, Braxton. Braxton just went out for president of his third grade class. Yeah, we got a president in my house. Braxton is 8, justifying 2 years while he deserves homicide, while he deserves to be murdered. Anybody want to raise your hand and justify that for me? No? Thank you, son. I love you. 10 to 24. #1 cause of death, not prostate cancer, not car wrecks, homicide. 10 to 24. Somebody killing them, snuffing them out, wiping them out in every single city. I want you to pay attention to the red. The red is black males, the blue, white males. I want you to pay attention, okay? Pay attention to the red. 80% in Baltimore. So we're going to fly through these slides. 62% in Boston. Buffalo, 67%. Chicago, this number is a little behind. When we get 2017 numbers, 2016, put those two together, it's going to go up about 12 to 15% is what is projected. Black men, black boys, 10 to 24. Cleveland, 70%. Columbus, 64%. Indianapolis, right down the street from us, 51%. Jackson, 78%. Kansas City, 63%. Memphis, 71%. 66% in Minneapolis. Newark, 75%. Oakland, 68%. Philly, 72%. Seattle, very low number. We can talk about why if you wanted to talk privately. St. Louis, 78%. And our response is what? Let me tell you what our response is. Let's do it real quick. Let's reenact our response. Check this out. Let's reenact it. Do you hear that? It's true, right? Sandy Hook happened. Our nation shut down, grieved, hated it. They should, because human lives are being taken. Another mass shooting. Our nation does what? Shuts down, grieves. They should. One of the mistakes that people make is they devalue something to raise the value of something else. So many times with the Holocaust, I hear it, man, the Holocaust, they don't care about us. We cannot devalue what has happened to human beings. But we have to pay attention and figure out how do we raise the value of something else. Don't bring this down, but make sure that we raise the value. Why is our response silence when in 2013, 6,900 black men ages 10 to 24 were murdered? 6,900. I heard Parkview has like over 11,000 employees. Is that right? Yeah? Well, let's wipe out half the employees at Parkview. Would that get our attention? 6,900 people died, dead, murdered, killed, snuffed out. Sons, fathers, uncles. And our response is nothing. The same time Sandy Hook happened, Chicago had 40-something shootings in a weekend. Silence. Why is our response that? Here's a question. Is it race related? Do we look at people and see them as less valuable because of the color of their skin? Is it race related? Do we look at them and say, just get a job, man. That's your fault you got murdered, dude. Step it up, man. Do we look at them and say, you're all bad dads? You know how many times I went to Starbucks with my sons and folks were looking at me like, what are you doing? A lady walked up to me one day and said, how often do you get your sons? Oh, every single day. How often do you look at people and make some type of judgment because of what you think, right? How often? Is it race related that our response is, oh, whatever, they get what they deserve? So let's talk about this conversation of race for the remainder of my time, which ain't a whole lot. So let's talk about it. So I want to show you this picture, all right? Hopefully nobody gets ticked off by this. So with this conversation of race, I understand that I'm in a predominantly white church. I get that. I can see. Anybody doesn't notice I'm black? Do you notice I'm black? Thank you. Come shake my hand. I appreciate that you notice I'm black. Because we love to say that we're colorblind, right? And we don't see anything. Do not be colorblind. I appreciate the premise of the argument. I appreciate the heart that you're saying to me, I don't judge you from your color. I judge you from the content of your character. I appreciate that. But don't tell me that you're colorblind, because what you're saying is, I don't see that you're black. I don't see that you have culture. I don't see that you're from Trinidad. I don't see that you're different. Here's what Christ wants us to do. I see that you're white. I love you anyway. And guess what? I'm going to make the effort to get to know you because you're different than I am. I'm not going to say I don't see you. How many of you guys will tell your wife when you get home, I don't see that you're a woman? Right? Put a woman amongst 50 men, only person in the room, and say, we don't notice that you're a woman. Come on. Not a big deal. You're doing the same thing to me when you say that you're colorblind. You're stripping me of everything that I bring with me. It's okay for you to notice that I'm black, as long as you know what you're thinking on the inside. It's okay. We're different. Stop lying to yourself and tell us that we're not. It's okay. Everybody say it's okay. It's all right. Get comfortable with it. I'm different than you are. If you don't believe that, come to my house. Come hang out with me and Joe on the weekend. Come hang out with us and say that we're not different. We're going to laugh. We're going to act a fool because that's what we do when you go out. You guys might sit at a restaurant like this and eat. We're going to cut up. We are different. It's okay. I love it. And when you see me at the lake, don't look at me like, what are you doing here? You know why? Because you know we're different. And then you believe that all black folks can't swim. Why? Because you think that there's a difference between us, right? We know that there's a difference. It's okay. I swim really, really well. So do my sons. My homeboy Edmund here, his son is in swim classes. Guess what? Black folks can swim. I'm saying all that to say you identify that we're different, but in this nice Christian circle, we want to be, no, we don't see any differences. You are robbing yourself of learning culture and learning that person, and you're robbing a person of color from being themselves. Don't do that. I can't pretty up this conversation. I can't do it. We got to talk as raw as possible for the remainder of my time. At Wallen Baptist, we talk about this every single week. We've been doing this for 15 months, and we get raw in this conversation, and we are not prettying this conversation up. So I can't put makeup on it. I can't put hair on it. I can't put a blouse on it. We're about to get raw. Y'all okay with that? So Pastor Ron told me y'all are supposed to get out of here like 12:10 or something like that, but he told me it's the last service so I could take as long as I want. So here we go. So I want to talk to you guys about the design, okay? So God designed this thing. Let me give you just a basic, I'm not a pastor, so let me give you a basic design. God said, go multiply, right? Man and women, Genesis 1:26 or so, men and women, right? Man and woman, go multiply. And we all came from those two people. You guys believe that? So God's design is that what? Is that we're really one race. That is God's design. That is God's design. So we can't argue with that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about race, and we have some head and heart rules. One of the first things that I want us to do is differentiate between what it should be. What God designed is what it should be. But what it is a little bit different because we got involved. Not you, not me, but we got involved, and we kind of messed this thing up. What it should be is that all that matters is that I'm from God, and God created me. But it ain't that way. That lady at Starbucks, the lady that walked up to me at a gas station and said, how did you afford that truck? That's what it is, all right? So let's quit talking about, oh, this is the way it, no, that's what it should be. Some of us men, probably most of us men who want to be pure, we shouldn't have to keep our eyes locked in certain places when a woman walks past. But reality is, if we want to be pure, that's reality. That's what we got to do. You have to tell your kids sometimes when they go to certain places, don't let anybody, make sure you do this when you go to the bathroom. That's the way it is. You can't go to a doctor and the doctor says you have cancer and you leave and say, I'm going to act like I don't. Reality is, it's not the way God designed it. We have work to do. Let's do it, okay? That's what it is. So we have to differentiate between what it should be and what it is. Don't politicize the issue. Most of us are, oh, that's a Democrat movement. I hate Black Lives Matter. That came from Democrats. I hate Black Lives Matter. I think it's bad in the first place that we have to have somebody say, hey, we matter too. That just bothers me fundamentally. Just principle, that just bothers me, right? This is not a Democrat or a Republican issue, a red or a blue. This is about hearts and minds and people changing and us addressing this issue, okay? And the third one is don't be willfully ignorant. Some of us have this attitude towards race. Don't want to talk about it, don't want to deal with it. Let's not talk about it, let's not deal with it. I don't want to see that. That's called willfully ignorant. I don't want to know. I had some issues with my health the other while ago. And my wife kept saying, you need to go check that out. I'm like, I don't want to know. Because I was scared to death. I'm serious, I was scared to death. I don't want to know. If I am going to die, I don't want to know. Most of us have that attitude towards race. So, for the next 7 minutes, let's talk about how racism has evolved. So, at first, racism was public, right? Racism was public. Partiality at its best. Partiality at its best. Partiality at its best. Public. You burn a cross in my yard, everybody was cool with it. So remember, racism at that time was very general, very common. Get on the bus, black folks went where? I can't hear y'all. To the back. That was very common, right? Very cool. Everybody was cool with it. And white folks sat in the front of the bus like this. Very common, accepted, widespread, right? That was public. Very, very public. Different water fountains. Certain people can do this, certain people can do that. Certain people can't do this, certain people can't do that. You guys know what redlining is? Where the government, HUD, basically said, if you are black, you can't get a mortgage. Do you know that if you were white and you were going to get a mortgage next to a black person, they would decline you? They would decline you because you live next to a black person? That's called redlining. Do you know that the communities that were redlining those times are still struggling today? Did you know that? That's public racism. It was collective. It was shared. It was joint. That's public racism. And we could talk about this for hours, how racism was public. But now that society has changed, we don't accept that anymore. So it's kind of gotten personal. So let me give you just a quick little example of this. So personal racism is that white man that looks out his window in a nice neighborhood. He's like, oh, honey, oh, black folks are moving in next door. Oh my gosh. Oh, they're not gonna mow their grass. Those cars are gonna be outside. And he starts to think all this stuff. True story. I've heard that story many, many times. Good friend of mine told me he moved into his neighborhood. The neighbor walked across the street. He introduced himself. He said, hey, my name is John. The neighbor said, I'll be moving. And then he moved. That's racism. That's an issue, right? And that's something that's very personal that turned into public because that really, really hurt my friend, right? So personal is in that break room. What you think about people in that break room, that you're cracking all those little jokes and it's shared between you and that other person, that's personal. That's very personal. Very, very personal. You and that other person, y'all the only ones that know about that. What you say in the car when you get cut off about the person in that other car that you assume was black because of the type of car, the rims or whatever the case may be, right? At the Kroger, when you see that mom with the 4 kids, you might see my wife with 2 kids and you're black woman, kids, no dad, food stamps, you know, that kind of stuff. But the one that is destroying America and destroying the church and destroying the mission of Christ is this one, the private. This is also what we call implicit bias. This is the private stuff that's in your heart. That when I walk into your church in your lobby and I walk in and there are a bunch of people shaking my hand, this is the stuff I would not know about that you think about me. This is when I go to a car dealership, what they think when a black man walks in. This is when I'm at a restaurant and I get a different service because they don't think I'm a good tipper. That's the private stuff that we don't talk about. This is when you are sitting next to the person that you're sitting next to and they have no idea what you really think. This is what destroys churches, and it destroys lives, and it destroys relationships, it destroys missions, it destroys communities, it destroys cities. This, the private racism, and it also goes backwards. Back in the day when racism was at its best, it started off here, it went here, and it ended up here. You can't burn a cross in a person's yard until you started here. You can't call somebody N-word when you get cut off in traffic until it's in your heart first. The private issue, the secret that we have in our hearts towards others will destroy the mission of Christ. It will. It will destroy you being able to help us engage young black men because you think stuff about young black men that's not true. So that's why we have to break down the racial barriers, because I need you at the table of Fort Wayne United. I do. But I don't want people to come into the room and think, I'm scared to death of young black boys. Or I think you guys are beneath me, and just not say it. And there's a difference when you welcome people out here. There's a difference between tolerating people and welcoming people. I've tolerated people before. I have a very public job that I have to see people and deal with people all the time. And I can't lie to you, I tolerate people. I shake hands, I smile, I go home, and then it becomes personal because I tell my wife, oh my gosh, they make me crazy. It's the truth. I tolerate. So do not confuse tolerating for welcoming. And the only way that we're going to get to the real deal is if everybody in this room, you challenge yourself and you challenge others. I want to leave you with one story to tell you that I deal with the same issues. Every year, we go to Naples, Florida. Anybody know about Naples, Florida? Yeah, there you go, baby. You like Naples? I like Naples too. You gonna be there this year? Good. You guys look me up. I'll be the only black man in Naples. I'll be the only, and the brokest individual in Naples. I'll guarantee you that. So we go to Naples. I'll be honest with you. So here we go. I'm going to confess this to you guys. You cool with that? You cannot, don't put this on TV, okay? All right, so what I was going to say, we're going to change that up a little bit. No, I have my own issues too, okay? I have my own issues too that I'm dealing with. I have my own implicit bias. I got my own private stuff. When I get on a plane, I get terrified. I hate flying. And I see people on a plane, and I used to say, here we go. I used to say that. And then I start to deal with my own issues this way. And I said, I capture that thought, keep it under, capture it, Art. And I would capture that thought, and then when I get off the plane, boom, land in Fort Myers. I was wrong. Nothing happened. I was wrong. And as time went on, I got better because I was challenging myself. You have to challenge yourself, and others have to challenge you, and you have to challenge others. And that's how we get rid of this private poison that's going to tear apart Pathway, Wallen Baptist, New Covenant, every single church, every single community, every single opportunity there is for you to help. We're going to tear it apart with the private stuff. I want to leave you with one more thing, and I'm going to ask Joe Jordan to make his way up here. Come on up here, Joe. I want you guys to say this after I say it, okay? I want you guys to say it. I want you guys to say, racism is not a skin issue. It is a sin issue. When we look at it that way and we start to value all people in our communities, that's when this church will fill up. And so many other churches will fill up with people that don't look like us. That's when black churches will fill up with people that don't look like them. It's on both sides, people. It's on both sides. My family, we got whites, we have Italians, we have everybody. My mom just married a white dude. That dude is white as they come. Let me tell you. I won't tell you his name because he is white as they come. She married him. My sister's married to an amazing white man. My sons have an adopted white grandfather, right? I want to deal with these issues because I want my family, I want my sons to know I am valued. Whites value me. Everybody values me, just like your kids are. Just like you want your kids to be, I want the same thing. And Joe Jordan wants the same thing for his kids at the Boys and Girls Club. We only can do it when we start to kill this stuff. Can't hide here anymore, right? Can't hide here, but we can hide here. You guys agree? Let's start to address it together. Joe, come on up, man.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank Pastor Ron for inviting us to be here. But there's really nothing left to say. But you can see why this work has taken such a positive stance and impact in our community, because we have an incredible leader in Eric Headley. Let's give Eric a round of applause. In a very short period of time, he has galvanized the major system leaders in our community around this issue, dealing with black men and boys. And I've been here all my life, and I love this community. And I've worked in social services for over 30 years, helping the population in which we are serving now. And I have never seen such a collective impact around this issue. And what I love about it, because I believe in Fort Wayne. I believe we got an incredible community with incredible leadership and incredible people. If anybody can get their arms around this issue and impact it, it's Fort Wayne. Just the fact that we are here this morning in a suburban church talking about this issue with you all is an indication that it's gonna happen. I believe we got the right leadership. I believe we've got the right people, the right tone, and I believe that we're gonna make a dent in some of these issues that's dealing with our black boys and men. So I wanna thank you all for opening up your hearts and giving us an opportunity to say what we need to say. But more importantly, I want you to go home today, and I want you to look in the mirror and think about this. Private. And it's okay to admit that, yeah, I have some stereotypes. Yeah, I get nervous when I see a black young man walk past me. Yeah, I have some opinions when I see a woman in the store with kids. Because that's the start of changing the mindset. We all judge each other. We do that. That's natural. But you got to create this filter to bring it back. You know, one day I was in San Francisco, and I was walking down the street. I had a suit and tie on. And this homeless guy walks up to me. He says, "Sir, would you spare $5 so I can get something to eat?" And I said to him, "I tell you what, I'm gonna give you $5 and I'm gonna buy you something to eat if you join me for lunch." He said, okay. So we ran across the street to the cafe, and we were sitting there, and he kept telling me, "You know, I used to wear a suit like you. You know, I went to Ivy League school," and I'm not listening. I'm thinking, whatever. And so I finally said, "Okay, what happened? If you were a broker, what happened? How did you get to this stage in life?" He said, "Sir, I was rushing to work one morning, and I left the iron on, and the iron fell, somehow caught the curtains on fire, and it killed my wife and my 2 children. And I just lost my zest for life." And I was so embarrassed because I judged that man. I judged him. Didn't even have an idea how he got to be where he was. And that's what we all got to do. We got to stop judging people. We got to ask ourselves from which they come. From which they come. Our young black men and boys came from somewhere. Maybe they wasn't as fortunate as I was, or Eric was, as we are. Maybe they didn't have those parents that guided and directed them. Maybe they came from a situation where mom was cracked out and dad was nowhere around, grew up in the foster system, nobody cared about them. They didn't come out the womb unmotivated. There's circumstances. And this work, make no mistake about it, won't get done without the faith community. If you look at everything major in our country that happened from a moral perspective, the faith community was engaged completely. So I believe that God has us here for a reason. And I believe if you're spiritual based and you confess with your heart and mind that you love Jesus Christ, this work should be close to your heart, because we got people suffering in our city. So thank you. Thank you for having us. And again, dynamic leader, Eric Headley. Thank you.
Oh, man, good. Awesome. Good job.
Thanks. Yeah. I was telling second service that on that private piece, I know there's been times I've had my own private thoughts, and lately I've been thinking about when I walk into a place with my kids, or like when I took my 3 oldest ones on a trip the other week, and we walked into a place that we were at for the whole weekend, and there were a lot of people that were there. I knew that people were wondering, where's his wife? Until somebody finally asked. I was able to tell. And as Ira was talking this morning, I thought, I think I get a feel for how it must feel, to a degree, when not only do you have private thoughts, but you often wonder, I wonder what their private thoughts are about me. So just think about that as well, as you live out your life and as you show the grace that Christ has shown to you. Let's stand together. We are a part of this Fort Wayne United. I know we're running a few minutes late, and I just want a very important piece, though. We're part of what's called Meals for Healing. We've got about 20 families have stepped into this, that when there is a murder in our community, the police department asks the family, would you like to have a meal for 5 days from a local church? And if they say yes, then we're part of that network of other churches that have done that. So we've stepped into that. Southwick Elementary are part of that, and coming alongside of Southwick. We're going to be offering the diversity class here next year. We have a small team that's talking about diversity issues, and much deeper than just the color skin, but we're having these conversations. We said that whenever there's a murder in our city, we would talk about it and pray about it. There were 2 this weekend. And one of those was the niece of Terry Carter, who attends here. And his daughter was left wounded and is in the hospital right now as well. And so we're going to pray about that, pray about Texas. And then also Susie and Jeff Sisney. They were very much part of the service, sat front row here. Jeff and Susie were section community leaders. And after a battle, Jeff lost his life on Friday. And so Tuesday, 4 to 8 here, and Wednesday, 11 o'clock service. So let's pray together. Lord, thank you for these moments. Thank you for this congregation, for the openness that they're having to these conversations. Look forward to next weekend as we talk about the issue of the foster peace and the role that we can play in the lives of kids that have been displaced from their families and those who long to have a forever family. I think it's going to be impactful for us as a church to have those conversations. I think of these families have been impacted through this murder, the community around it that's been impacted through these murders. And again, Lord, I pray that in the midst of the senselessness, that in some ways we could make sense of your presence and of your plan, and that we would step into that to be faithful and obedient to the call you've placed on us to come around those who are hurting from this. I pray for Terry, for his heart, for his loss, for all the needs that are before him. And I pray, again, your comfort and peace on him as well. For Texas, another vivid reminder of the madness that we live in within our culture, and how a lose-lose can be so devastating to an entire community. I pray your peace there as well. And for Susie, then the loss of Jeff, that, Lord, she would sense your presence and your love in profound ways through the memories and through the people that are going to come around her to love her through this. Thanks for the reminders today that we've been taught so well. Help us to look at our hearts. Help us to be people that move closer to your heart in how we love and see each other. And it's in the name of Jesus I pray. Amen. See you later.